regular season. The Dodgers are coming off a doubleheader sweep of Mason City last night, 9-0 and 14-4. You can hear both of the games of the Double Dip tonight on Sunny 99.7, beginning at 5 p.m. That's your Alpha Media News and Sports update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Chance for scattered storms this afternoon, otherwise a blend of clouds and sun. High temperatures reach up to 85, winds out of the southwest 10 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies again. Tonight, lows dip down to about 67. Daytime highs approaching 78. Tomorrow, sunshine mixed with clouds at times. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 84.
The Lizard Creek Blues Society presents Blues Under the Trees, Saturday, July 27th, featuring Hamilton Loomis. The full blues lineup includes Joe and Vicky Price, the Heather Newman Band, and Malcolm Wells and the Two Timers. Gates open at 1. They lay down the blues at 2. Advance tickets are $25. Get them now at Access Audio, Avila Bank, Hy-Vee in Fort Dodge and Humboldt, and Remy Music. Or get your tickets for $30 at the gate. Bring your lawn chairs and an appetite for great food and world-class blues. Blues Under the Trees, Saturday, July 27th, Sports Park Raceway, Fort Dodge.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here for the Severe Weather Advisor. Brought to you by Creative Signs and Graphics, Fort Dodge. For signs, decals, vehicle graphics, magnets, logos, customized documents, and more. If your business needs it, Creative Signs and Graphics can make it. And a stitch above the rest embroidery, Fort Dodge. Step out in style with quality brands, timely turnaround, and professional service. A stitch above the rest. Embroidery professionals worth finding. Remember, when severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on KVFD.
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes, teachers, and students are calling Limitless a secret weapon for the brain. You have nothing to lose, so call now and find out how to get a free bottle today.
To find out how to get your free bottle of Limitless, call 800-681-9041. That's 800-681-9041. Free bottle for a limited time. Call now, 800-681-9041, 800-681-9041.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm the mayor of Manville, doctor of truth, a number of other things. We'll talk about that later. Today, Police Chief, Fort Dodge Police Chief Roger Porter is our guest. Hi, Roger.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Did you have a good 4th?
I did.
I certainly did. It's good to have some time off.
Yeah, it was.
I think I could have had a couple more days off and I wouldn't have complained. You know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about.
Well, I want to talk with you about the fireworks complaints. Every time we do this time of year, of course, we have a lot of them. Mm-hmm. The first year was awful.
Yes, it was.
Second year, not so bad. And of course, from my perspective, it wasn't nearly as bad this year as it was the first 2 years.
No, I agree.
I did see in the paper this morning a number of complaints concerning fireworks use. I didn't see any tickets given or citations given for people using fireworks when they weren't supposed to.
And we were just talking about it yesterday in the office, and our Jeremy, one of our ops personnel, he ran the stats for me from June 1st to July 8th of last year. We had, from that date, we had 653 calls for service on fireworks.
Right.
And during that time frame, there was 48 citations written.
Okay.
This year, during the same time frame, June 1st to July 8th, there was a little over 270 calls for service, so quite a few less. And then there was 21 citations issued during that time frame. So I mean,
well, that's about a 2/3 drop then.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think people are starting to, the newness is kind of wearing off a little bit, and And, some neighborhoods might not still, and they may not see that depending on what's going on in that neighborhood. But there has been a drastic drop, and we try to get to all of them that we can get to, and when we do get the complaints in on them, and we're looking for them. So,
this has nothing to do with police work at all, but I wonder how those guys selling fireworks are making a living out there. They're not allowed to sell it. When could you sell fireworks?
The dates are on the thing. I can't have all the dates in mind, but it's just
sure.
right up to the time just before
July 4th or in there somewhere.
Then you're done right at July 4th.
Then you're done.
I think if you notice on July 5th when you went by, either the tents were down or they're all empty and packed up and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
That's not a lot of time to sell fireworks.
But they must be doing something. People are buying them. They are shooting them off, and they must be making something off of it.
There you go. Well, I'm glad. I was very disappointed again in my fellow citizens the first year that we had this, that they acted like animals. Some of them did, for God's sake. But I'm glad. I'm glad for you. It's not that I have no feeling or no respect for the people who are bothered by fireworks. I certainly do. I had a man talk to me at length about his little dog who is just terrified and loses control of himself in the house when those fireworks go off. And this wasn't some wimpy complainer either. He was an average, ordinary guy who paid attention to what he was doing in life and minded his business. I mean, he just he didn't like to see that happen to his dog. And I love dogs. I don't blame him at all.
And I think that's a legitimate complaint. I mean, I even myself, the first 2 years, unfortunately, the dog I had at that time has passed on since then. But the one was he was pretty afraid of when those things were going off. Now, the new dog we got doesn't blink an eye. So, I mean, it is a real thing. I mean, people do have pets are susceptible to that. And it's something to think about too. So.
And as a veteran who has actually been shot at, I appreciate fellow veterans who suffer from PTSD, who might react badly to what sounds like a gunshot in the middle of the night.
Absolutely.
Because I jump every now and then. Believe me, I jump. I don't know if that means I have PTSD, but I'll tell you, some of those mortar sounds.
They do sound pretty.
Yeah, that gets me to sit up in bed every now and then, and it's not because of the noise. It's because I remember that.
Yeah.
And that's a frightening time.
I was in the artillery in the National Guard, and we'd shoot those things off. And some of these big ones, there's not a whole lot of distinction between the two when you're listening to them.
What kind of howitzer were you shooting?
1.0 Deuce.
1.0 Deuce.
Okay. Yeah, we were a light air assault unit.
So. Okay. All right.
Fly us in with the Chinook helicopters and drop the howitzer and then drop the crew and go to town. So it was fun.
Weren't those 155 monsters?
Well, we did that for about 2 years. They reverted us to the 155s, and I wanted to go back. Those things were too big. And
they're big guns.
And a lot of work for those things. So.
You got to move them around, and it's very difficult.
Very difficult, yeah.
Oh, well. Fire chief, police chief Roger Porter is our guest there. That was on my mind because I know we have another game coming up between the policemen and the fire people. Police officers and fire people, I should say. And when is that?
That's in September.
It's not until September.
Yeah, I believe. I'll look for the date while we're talking here.
Okay.
But it's actually there's going to be one added team to it. There's going to be the sheriff's department is putting together a team, so it's going to be 3 teams playing out there. So everybody's going to play 2 games. So it should be a lot of fun. But yeah, the last couple of years, it was just the PD and the Fort Dodge Fire Department.
Right.
And I think the first year we had took a couple players from this sheriff's department, and then the fire department didn't want us to do that because they were some big hitters. So now it was just the PD and then the fire department, and the SO wanted to get involved. So this year we're getting all 3 agencies involved.
Oh, good.
So, September 22nd. It's going to be at 2:30 out of Highland Rogers. So you have.
Oh gosh, I thought it was in August.
No, September.
Okay. We do have some other things coming up regarding the police department.
Yeah. Every year we try to do at least 1 or 2 community events, picnic events.
Sure.
That are hosted by the police department, just to get people in the areas involved. And we try to hit all the parks every year. We'll go to a different park, and this year, at least the first one, the park we picked is Loomis. We haven't been down there yet. So this Friday from 5 to 7 p.m., if you're interested and out and about, come on down. We're going to have, we'll have a little bit of food, some hot dogs and stuff. And this is more of a meet and greet and meet some of the officers that are going to be down there and just have a fun time, a good event just to get together in the community. And that'll be this Friday, the 12th. So, And then here, next month on the 6th, I believe it is going to be National Night Out. That's also going to be from 5 to 7 p.m. And that'll be down at the City Square again this year. It seemed to work out real well last year. A lot of avenues in and out, so there wasn't a whole lot of traffic congestion or anything like that. So we're going to be down there, and we've been having weekly meetings almost on that right now. We just had one this morning on trying to make sure we're getting all of our ducks in a row and get all the people invited and getting all the fun activities going on for the kids and adults. So it should be a good time, a good turnout. Hopefully the weather holds out. And I know last year we had a little bit of a thunderstorm scare during that time, but again, this is Iowa. You can't predict that stuff. You know, it's like trying to schedule a softball game. You never know what the heck's going to happen.
Oh man, I guess. Yeah, it's just. I understand there's a pretty good girls softball coach going to take the field tonight here at Harlan Rogers Field in Fort Dodge. Would that be Coach Porter?
Well, yeah. Well, they're actually during tonight's game. They're introducing the Pride local traveling softball team. They're introducing them in between the two games.
What does that mean? Pride local softball team?
Pride. It's a softball organization,
right?
And it's anywhere from. It's 8U teams all the way up to 16U, and we have girls that are playing 6, 7 years old playing on the 8U teams.
Really?
2-3 teams on each age level. It's really grown. I mean, just since I started, my daughter started getting involved in it. It's really grown to where you had maybe one team on each age group to now 2-3 teams on each age group, and it's a great organization. You know, it's just a all around fun thing. And if your girls love softball, then they're actually having tryouts for that in September here.
Yeah.
September 23rd, I believe it is. They're going to have tryouts for it. So if they're interested, they'll be out of Harlan Rogers, and they'll be on their Softball Connection Facebook page. So
I absolutely believe that participation in sports is educational.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely do. I've had Don Miller and Denny Fredericks, wrestling coaches and others in this studio to talk not about the sport itself, but about the educational aspect of participation in any kind of sport.
I think we have at Fort Dodge has some of the best coaches. Whether it's my boy was coached by St. Edmunds baseball coach when he was coming up through the Legends League. All the Fort Dodge High coaches, and you talk to them, and they're all about life lessons and things like that. It's not just about softball or just about wrestling or football. You know, all those coaches are also teaching your kids life lessons. Charles out here at APHIS does a great job when he's doing the football program.
There's no doubt.
The basketball program, and I think all of them mentioned first, they talk about the life lessons as prior to, teaching them how the game of the sport that they're coaching at that time. So that means more to me as a dad than anything else.
That's exactly right. Boy, that is so important. I remember one of my old coaches, it stayed with me all these years. I was just a kid. He came out and he said, we're going to show you how to work within a team and to stand out as an individual.
Absolutely.
And that's a great lesson.
I've seen
you can't get it anywhere else.
Absolutely. No. I've seen coaches that try to live vicariously through their team and all they're about is winning and at all costs, and it just ruins the girls and it just makes them look bad. And I think we have a great staff around here on both all levels, high schools and all the way up to the college level.
I got into that a little bit when I coached. I was a coach flag football 3 years for the Duncombe Jets. Oh God, what an experience!
It's a lot of fun though. I learned a lot of life lessons coaching the team myself. So it's a great time. Yeah.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but
the young ones teach me just as much as I hope I'm teaching them. So
yeah, I only lost it completely once, and our old chief, Kevin, God, I forgot his name already. Doty, yeah. Gosh, it was a tight match against Eagle Grove, and it came down to my son's match, and he was wrestling a kid much, much bigger than him. He stepped up to the heavyweight division, and he lost on an illegal hold that he had on this young man. And I became an embarrassment as a parent.
Yeah.
And
Been there.
It happened right in front of me. Woody called the point, and he was right. But that was it. It was a hard fought. No, it was against Newton, I guess, and it was a hard fought match all the way. And I could see Doty coming out of the.
Well, I tried.
He was on the far side of the gym, and he said, "I got to go over and talk to this lunatic before he totally gets out of control."
I tried to be the role model and do what I preach, but I'm not saying I don't get excited.
I know. It's hard.
We are human.
That's right. It's you gotta, if you can't appreciate the excitement of sports, what the heck?
Yeah.
We got anything else, Roger?
No, that's about it. Well, like I said, follow our Facebook page. All these events are going to be out there on our Facebook page, and like them and share them. And if you do the same, that'd be great. Get the information out. So I'd like to see a good good turnout starting with this Friday. So,
All right. Thank you, Roger.
thanks, Mike.
Roger Porter, Chief of Police, has been our guest.
Michael Devine at AM 1400
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
with 60 rounds of freedom.
AM 1400 KVFT, the voice for Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. It's 2:25. Steve Peterson of the Farm Bureau coming up. Beautiful day. We still may see some showers. What a surprise that we'd have a cloudburst later on. All right, news is coming up.
Grain markets have only given back part of their losses as USDA's unexpected June acreage numbers shocked most traders and gave some an opportunity. I'm Nicole Heslop with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. USDA will make acreage revisions in August, but in the meantime, Mike North with Commodity Risk Management Group says the June yield number should provide more direction. We'll have more from him right after this.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba, please be done. Over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Good morning, Uglyville!
Every ugly doll is unique.
I'm Moxie.
Bobo.
Wait.
Those close to me call me Slick Dog.
Which is not his name.
And every child is too.
He can be pretty lovable.
That's why when you travel, you should make sure your child is in the right seat for their age and size.
That sounds pretty great to me.
Keep them safe by visiting NHTSA.gov/the right seat.
Isn't that right, gibberish cat?
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
An ag marketer says USDA's June acreage numbers had the grain markets reeling.
After the bloody and bruised condition most traders left Friday's trade in, today was probably a further response to their ability to hold in the market.
President of Commodity Risk Management Group, Mike North, tells Brownfield USDA's plenty number for corn was 3% higher than last year, while the previous supply and demand report lowered expectations by 3%.
The 91.7 million acres of planted corn is certainly in question, but I think also the fact that they're saying only 9% abandonment, which is representative of a normal year, I think that's also in question.
He says declines in the corn market do provide opportunity for dairy and livestock producers to reevaluate their positions.
I literally just got off the phone with a dairyman who he and I shared this exact same conversation. Go back to the market, reevaluate first your ability to source physical product. That should be your number one goal right now, because in areas where things are short, you want to make sure you have adequate supply to feed the animals. Once you've got that squared away, then it can become a price discussion. Option strategies are beautiful for that. They give a lot of opportunity to, maintain flexibility in the market.
North says the trade now turns to USDA's yield projections, which will be released July 11th.
The thing that everyone's going to be watching is what the USDA says for yield. And as we talk about production, it's always two components. How many acres did you plant and what was your yield per acre? Whereas in a normal year, we usually settle the story of acres first and then go after yield all summer long. It seems this year we're going to have to go after yield first and come back to acres later. So July 11th is our next look at another USDA number.
The USDA will resurvey crop farmers in 14 states on their July planted acres, the first time since 2015, and release that information in August.
Use this as a chance to kind of check yourself. And if you may have missed it, come back in, get some put strategies in place, put some targets back above the market, and allow for these type of opportunities to still play to your favor. That's one thing that I think everybody can do now.
Again, that was Mike North with Commodity Risk Management Group. I'm Nicole Heslop with Managing for Profit on Brownfield.
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes, teachers, and students are calling Limitless a secret weapon for the brain. You have nothing to lose, so call now and find out how to get a free bottle today.
To find out how to get your free bottle of Limitless, call 800-681-9041. That's 800-681-9041. Free bottle for a limited time. Call now, 800-681-9041, 800-681-9041.
We stand for people, progress and pride.
We're the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we support farm families. We're a voice on local, state, and national issues. We're also committed to making rural Iowa a better place to live and keeping Iowa farm families on the farm.
People, progress and pride, it's true. Iowa Farm Bureau, helping you.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. The second person accused of killing a Webster County woman will now spend the next 4 decades in prison. 28-year-old Mackenzie Carnegie was originally charged with murder in the 2017 death of Jessica Gomez. Carnegie reached a plea agreement with prosecutors, which included her pleading guilty to 3 felonies, attempting to commit murder, second-degree robbery, and desecration of a corpse. Carnegie and Indiana resident Philip Williams were charged with murdering Gomez after she was found dead in August 2017. Gomez had been reported missing a few days earlier. Carnegie will serve a mandatory 24 and a half years in prison before eligibility for parole. Williams pleaded guilty in April on 3 charges in conjunction with the case, including attempt to commit murder, abuse of a human corpse, and accessory after the fact. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison for his involvement. From Radio Iowa, former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper says if he convinces people he can win Iowa, he'll win the presidency. The former Colorado governor says his first abandoned foray into property development taught him not to give up on a great idea like his current campaign for the White House.
I'm going to keep pushing as long as I feel people are hearing something in me that for them is a solution to this crisis of division, all this animosity that this country is filled with right now.
Many of Hickenlooper's national staff and advisors left the campaign after urging the 67-year-old to run for Colorado's U.S. Senate instead. Hickenlooper says throughout his career, he's faced critics who say he's not the right person for the job of being mayor of Denver or governor of Colorado, but he persevered.
How do you win? If you're at 1% in the polls nationally, you win Iowa. That's how you win. You go out and you walk back and forth across Iowa, and you drive cars across Iowa, and you convince people that A, you're the best person for the job, and B, that you can win Iowa. And most people in Iowa, they feel that if you win Iowa, you're going to become the next president.
Hickenlooper says he may not be the smartest candidate in the race, but nobody will work harder.
There's not slick slogans, and it's going to take a while to turn the tide. But I believe I am different than anybody else. And I think that when people get to know that and hear it, I think they'll talk about it to their neighbors.
Hickenlooper spoke to crowds in Des Moines yesterday. He describes himself as a pragmatic progressive and argues he can win in swing states Donald Trump won in 2016. 22-year-old Fort Dodge resident Cameron Heller is facing a multitude of criminal charges. His preliminary hearing is set for July 15th on charges of threat of explosive or incendiary device, child endangerment, reckless use of fire or explosives, and public intoxication. The Fort Dodge City Council met last night with an abundance of items on the agenda for discussion. The most prominent topic discussed was the proposal to rezone the Sears building into the Center City and Industrial Park urban renewal areas. That proposal passed the council unanimously. At-large council member Jeffrey Halter said the idea behind placing the Sears site in the urban renewal area is so that the city can offer tax funding reimbursement to the owners of the Sears site after the owners have covered the initial cost of demolition. The reimbursement would occur after new tax revenue is generated by future usage of the site. The council also confirmed at last night's meeting that July 16th will be known as Dodger Denny Day, in honor of former Fort Dodge School District longtime employee and avid Fort Dodge Dodger fan Dennis Olson, aka Dodger Denny, who passed away July 16th of last year. In sports, the St. Edmunds Gales softball team with a win in the playoffs 8-3 over Riceville last night. St. Edmunds will advance to take on AGWSR in Ackley on Wednesday. First pitch, 7 p.m. You can hear that game on Sunny 99.7. Fort Dodge softball set to host West Des Moines Valley tonight in a doubleheader to finish off the regular season. The Dodgers are coming off a doubleheader sweep of Mason City last night, 9-0 and 14-4. You can hear both of the games of the Double Dip tonight on Sunny 99.7 beginning at 5 p.m. That's your Alpha Media News and Sports update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 6 3/4 at 431 3/4. September down 7 cents at 432 1/2. December corn down 6 1/2 at 437 1/4. March down 6 at 444 1/2. July soybeans up 7 1/2 cents at 882 3/4. August up 7 at 886. September up 6 1/2 at 891 3/4. November up 6 1/2 at 904 1/4. July wheat closed down 7 cents at 509 3/4. Soybean meal up 370 a ton at 307.90. August live cattle up 197 at 108.12. October up 190 at 109.30. August feeder cattle up 397 at 142.87. September up 437 at 143.12. July lean hogs up $1.30 to close at 71.37. August up the $3 limit to close at 79.07. I'm Dwayne Murley.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine with the weather. First of all, 84 degrees. There's a chance of continued thunderstorms today. Otherwise, sunny with a high of 84. Exactly where we are now. Overnight, partly cloudy, low 67. Tomorrow, sunny with a high of 78. On Thursday, sunny with a high of 81. Friday, there's a good chance of a thunderstorm. Other than that, mostly sunny with a high of 90 degrees. On Saturday, sunny with a high of 90. On Sunday, mostly sunny with a high of 90. On Monday, sunny with a high of 91. Good corn growing weather. 84 degrees right now at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Barbara Jo Weigert has died. Barbara Jo Weigert of Fort Dodge has died at the age of 71. She died on July 7th at Trinity Regional Medical Center here in town. There will be a service for Barbara Jo Weigert, and that's going to happen Friday morning at Gunderson Funeral Home. I should say Friday afternoon at Gunderson Funeral Home. Visitation from 4 to 7 Thursday at Gunderson Funeral Home. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. It's 2:38 at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. 84 degrees. Steve Peterson of the Farm Bureau coming up.
Here's a special message for those of you who owe the IRS at least $10,000 or more in back taxes. The IRS has special programs in place that could eliminate or reduce your tax debt by thousands of dollars. With a call to National Tax Helpline, you can stop the wage garnishments, levies, and tax liens now. Once you've qualified and enrolled, the IRS will stop all the collection activities against you. These unique programs have been allocated to help the economy and significantly reduce or eliminate your tax tax burden. The IRS is currently accepting reduced settlements and other favorable programs. You may qualify for substantial savings, so get the help you need. If you owe the IRS $10,000 or more, call now for free information and to see if you qualify. Take down the number now for the tax helpline, 800-805-1055. That's 800-805-1055 for free information. 800-805-1055. That's 800-805-1055.
Is it time for a new roof, or did your roof take a beating from Mother Nature? If so, here's some great advice from Hahn Roofing. When you're trying to decide on a contractor, never tolerate high-pressure sales tactics. Never sign a contract without a price. Never make a payment until your job is done. And never accept a job that is not installed to manufacturer specifications. No warranty, no deal. Make the right choice. Call Hahn Roofing today at 515-573-7440. That's 515-573-7440. Hahn Roofing, an Owens Corning Platinum contractor.
Wild Rose Casino and Resort welcomes comedian Kathleen Madigan.
But I think I'm old enough that I can go, I'm done. My dream catcher didn't catch anything. I want to sit on the couch, drink wine, and watch House Hunters. That's all I want to do.
Saturday, September 7th, Kathleen Madigan comes to Jefferson.
I've never been a violent person, but if I was the realtors on that show, I'd punch at least half those people in the face.
Kathleen Madigan, September 7th at Wild Rose Casino and Resort, Jefferson. You'd rather laugh here.
If you don't listen to him, you suck.
He's sneaky, but he's right.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
I think we're going to get into some summer here yet. I think we're going to have summer if we're not careful. I'll tell you, I've been around the country a little bit once again over the 4th of July weekend, and I saw some real tall corn, and that's not the way our season started at all. This portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau, and our guest is Steve Peterson of beautiful downtown Slifer, a past president of the Webster County Farm Bureau. What'd you do over the 4th there, Steve?
Just pretty much hung around the farm. Went to Gowrie for a little bit.
Did you have a beer when you were in Gowrie?
No, I actually did not this year.
What, you just
I missed
milkshake or what?
Just missed out on that.
Yeah, you just missed out on the beer?
Yep.
I did not get down to Gowrie for the 4th of July parade. I had a parade heater with me, and I don't understand that at all. But I was all set to go to the Gowrie 4th of July parade. They do a great job.
Yeah, they do. Then from my vantage point, I get to see quite a few fireworks just from Slifer area in the distance. So you can see Gowrie's pretty good, and there's a lot of displays going on around the countryside. So pretty neat to see.
Oh yeah. I got something to run by. I saw this on AgWeb the other day. You got me reading that now.
Okay.
So now I'm dangerous.
That's good. You're getting educated.
I am getting educated, I'll tell you. But some believe that the floods that we've had are due to excess tiling. Too much tiling.
I read that same article. I guess a quick education on tiling.
I'm ready.
Is tile gets rid of the excess water in the top few feet of the soil. And, as anyone that has a garden knows that, plants need both water and oxygen, along with the nutrients. Saturated soils are very the productivity is low on them. So while it does move some water, it's only moving the excess water that's held in the upper few feet of the soil.
Right.
So it's just making that ground a little more productive, and yes, does it direct it away? I mean, there's some people that think that those few feet are completely, I mean, a rule of thumb in this part of the state is that every foot of soil holds about 4 inches of water.
Mm-hmm.
Anything above that, it becomes saturated, and that is the water then that would leave through the tile. So a typical in a 4-foot soil profile around here would hold about 16 inches of water if that profile was full.
Mm-hmm.
A corn plant roughly needs about 25 inches of water in a year to grow, and we have just such a tremendous water holding capability in our rich topsoil here. So the tiles kind of even that out, and they would drain off the excess flow. I mean, those tiles, they're not running. Some of them look like they're running full, but the area that they're covering is tremendous. It might be miles and miles of acres that are drained into some of these tiles. So it's very condensed. but I look at it as the productivity on that farm ground offsets, the water leaving. And, along with anything, my grandfather, they would tile like to the center of a pond. And you'll see a lot of intakes, or that's a direct shot down into the tile system to remove that water or that pond. And now a lot of times we don't see the intakes anymore, and they do more what's called pattern tiling, and where it's just a very systematic laid out grid through the field. It's with technology. Back in the old days, they dug all these lines in by hand, so they were just doing the bare minimum to get the most they could. With today's equipment and GPS and grade controls, it's most modern systems are put in a pattern or a pattern tiling format, and it definitely raises the productivity of the land. So that in itself, I don't think is really a lot of the flooding is surface running, surface water. The flash floods. Fort Dodge, what day was it last week? In Slifer, south of me, getting towards Sheridan, they got a deluge of rain the one day, and that same day in a different storm, I think Fort Dodge.
It rained so hard now going to Friday night. I went up there just for a couple hours, and I tried to leave town. I couldn't leave town. It was raining so hard.
Yeah,
I couldn't see.
Those flash floods are probably more of a problem because that's surface water, and surface water is what actually we in agriculture probably that's where we get the erosion. That's where your phosphorus and some of the surface applied nutrients. That's where that's lost. So that's where we do the grass waterways and buffer strips, and we've gotten pretty good at controlling those in there. But a lot of people lay to blame tiling for a lot of this other the water events in there. But I think the flash floods and the inconsistencies in some of the rains we've had lately, the floods on the Missouri River weren't caused exclusively by drainage tile, So, and also, the drainage tile, the ground acts as a filter, for a lot of that too. But most of the tiles in this part of the country are around the 4-foot depth. And that's pretty common. Now, if you go out into Ohio, Indiana, their ground is it doesn't have the water holding capability. So their tiles are usually a little shallower and they close the center lines up. So they might be like 20 feet apart, where around here, a lot of tile is, 50 to even 100 foot apart. So it's just different. You get into Nebraska and some of the more sandy, that's why they have to do irrigation, and you don't see a tremendous amount of irrigation in this part of the state because we have such a water holding capability with our ground. Out in Nebraska, where it's sandy, they can't hold the water, so they have to do irrigation and always be giving those crops a drink. Generally they do it at night or in the early morning. So just different, completely different scenarios. I was on a farm tour in South Carolina, and there was a rainstorm moved through, which it rains down there a lot, short showers, and we were in a bus, and we're out in a field. I'm just thinking there's no way we're not going to get stuck. That ground took the water and it was gone, and we just drove right on out, and there wasn't even any mud. It was just it's just completely different soil topography than what we have here. And here in this part of the state, this is a glacial lobe, and that's why our topsoil is so deep and rich in this part of the country. So but yeah, I seen that same article. There's always someone trying to get an angle, it seems like, on tiling. And I think there's a lot of misinformation of what it actually does, but the productivity that can do for a particular piece of ground is just amazing. A lot of people say, you pay for tile whether you put it in or not. With technology, it's really gotten more efficient. So it's a good thing.
Well, one of my friends says, to some extent, tiling prevents rainwater from leaching into the aquifer and replenishing it. Instead, rainwater is quickly converted into runoff. It makes little difference if the soil is saturated. However, as water has nowhere else to go, it goes downstream.
Right. And once the ground gets saturated, and saturated basically is when you start seeing ponds and puddles. Once the ground's saturated, water has nowhere to go but to run off the surface.
Right.
And that's actually the harder to control, because like I said, that can be erosion, phosphorus. And if you look at, I know a lot of emphasis gets put on nitrates and things like that, but agriculture as a whole has done a very good job in the last 10 years, especially controlling phosphate levels. We're definitely seeing some reduction in phosphates. They are non-mobile. They're attached to soil. So if we can control the soil, we can control the phosphates. So we've done an excellent job with, like I said, buffer strips, terraces, and different control methods that we use out in our farms for surface water. But surface water is a result after you reach saturation.
Mm-hmm.
So the ground, like I said, it is kind of the earth's the filter before it goes out the tile,
Sure.
So it's a point of view.
Sure.
But I would say, again, the production gains from tiling correctly definitely outweigh the cons.
I was going to say, sometimes we forget in years past how muddy fields could get. I mean, you always saw a tractor stuck somewhere.
Sure.
Always.
Sure.
And heck, we saw it last year.
Well, this spring was a good example of some farmers were able to get out in fields that were tiled, and some, in this area there's a few fields. I've seen a few in my area that never did get planted. So tile can definitely make the difference, especially in a trying year like this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What about the corn this year? I mean, I rode around the area a little bit again, and I saw some lush fields and some fields that didn't get planted.
There is my own corn, which was planted in the last week of April, which what I would consider more of a normal time period. Boy, in the last week, it's tall now. It is a year ago. Farmers, we always base on historical, what we did, and I seen that I was spraying fungicide on the 4th of July 1 year ago. I'm probably going to be doing that application Friday, if not early next week. So
it's a week.
I'm really just a week off of last year. I think as a whole, a lot of people feel we're anywhere from 7 to 10 days behind right now. I think we have made up a little ground, but there's still corn that literally is less than knee high, and we're past the 4th of July. And there's some that's, I'd say some of the tallest stuff's probably 7 foot tall at least.
Is it that high, really?
Yeah. I mean, mine's all well over my head. And a lot of that growth has come in the last 7 to 10 days. So it's really been enjoying this weather. Again, these rain showers last week, there was areas that got 4+ inches of rain. In my neck of the woods, I had about an inch and a quarter, and I don't think I ever got any rain over 2-3 at one time. So I was pretty fortunate in that situation. But
sure.
But yeah, crops are definitely coming along. There is, however, crops in every stage, both corn and beans. There's beans that are just very little. In fact, on the way up here today, I don't know what was planted, but I seen a freshly planted field too. So there's some people evidently
freshly planted.
It wasn't up yet, but I could see it was planted. So I don't know.
In the middle of July.
Yeah. So there's people that haven't given up hope yet. So it's going to be interesting talking to some of the people at the co-ops. The season will probably mirror the springtime. Once we start harvesting, I bet we're harvesting till Thanksgiving. It's and it used to be that way. I remember. I remember as a kid going trick or treating and going out and seeing my grandpa and dad out in the field and harvesting corn. So
that's right.
It's nothing that they didn't used to do, but there's just a lot of crops in a lot of different stages. There's beans that are very small. There's beans that are fairly normal sized, I would say, for the year.
The older guys would say we're all spoiled anyway.
We probably are.
My former wife grew up on a farm, and they were out there in the snow in December following a wagon around, picking up the corn cobs. The corn up off the field.
Sure.
And it was absolutely necessary. No, this is money we're picking up.
Yep. So, but yeah, if you drive around out in the countryside, you're going to see some bean fields they look like the beans are dying.
Mhm.
Those are sprayed with, I guess, for easy reference, what we call a burner herbicide, and it literally makes the beans look like they're going to die. But they come right out of it, and it's a pretty effective weed killer. The weeds don't come out of it. However, though, I believe tomorrow is the last day that those chemicals can be sprayed because of the carryover into next year's crop. So, because there's timelines in there, and I think July 10th is pretty much what's on label to spray those and not have a residual carryover till next year. So I'm not sure of the chemistry after that, what could be used, or so there are some compromises being made, because of the late planting and progress of the crops. But a lot of just like clockwork after the summer solstice, I've got soybeans. They're flowering right now. A lot of them have little purple or white flowers on them, and they're maturing along, at a pretty good click right now. So they're enjoying this weather.
I wonder if a lot of the success, even with this terrible weather we've had the last couple of years, has been to the type of hybrid corn that we have now.
Oh, there's a huge amount of the soybeans that were planted early this year. That's something that couldn't have been done probably, even with the success we have now in the last 5 or 6 years, with the seed coating technologies and the hybrids themselves, how hardy they are. There's terms my dad would tell me about, dampening off and Phytophthora root rot and different things that I really in my time farming. So definitely genetics are playing the Bristol with my agronomist, and I just told him, I said, we'll just go what we went with this year next year, because what we're really going to learn this year, I don't know. The chances of having another year like this, I hope never happen again. So, but never say never. But
yeah, you really can.
But it can be challenging giving all the hybrids a fair shake in extreme conditions like this. That some might really do well in these conditions, and that's worth noting. But a lot of times we don't know that that's what the case is going to be. So it's it's just you take the information and you try to compile it and make your best guess going forward. So I did see some fields this morning, and I learned something today. I seen some cornfields that were tasseled, and it just kind of blew me away, because they were some of the last fields planted. Come to find out, they were sweet corn fields.
Really?
And I guess I've got some more that are kind of coming in my neighborhood. I've heard of some down by in the Harcourt area, but now I guess I've got some more towards Farnhamville now. So I didn't realize we were growing sweet corn production down in that area, but because it kind of caught me off guard seeing those tassels out. So I just couldn't figure that out.
What does that mean? The tassels are out?
Well, the tassels are going out. The corn is, I believe they call it VT stage, and the silks will come out shortly after that, and that's the pollination process will start. And the silks, every kernel of corn has one silk attached to it, and then it'll get pollinated, and that's the reproductive process of a corn plant.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Steve Peterson's our guest with the Webster County Farm Bureau. We'll be back.
All money managers might seem the same, but while some give their clients cookie-cutter portfolios, Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to your goals and needs. Some only call when they have something to sell. Fisher calls regularly, so you stay informed. And while some advisors are happy to earn commissions whether you do well or not, Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when you do better. In other words, we're on your side. Maybe that's why most of our clients come from other money managers. So if you're in or nearing retirement, talk with us and find out why investors are switching to and staying with Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments, clearly better money management. Investments in securities involve the risk of loss. Visit us at FisherInvestments.com to find out what we can do for you.
It's 3 o'clock at AM 1400 KVFD.
From tuning an engine to replacing a fuse, you can learn it all under the hood. Heard every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
A cabinet secretary under scrutiny over a sex trafficking case. Lisa Brady, Fox News. A day after the new federal charges against a hedge fund manager were announced, critics are calling attention again to the previous case against Jeffrey Epstein, which ended with a secret deal when the current U.S. labor chief was a federal prosecutor. Fox's John Decker is live at the White House.
As Democrats call for Labor Secretary Alex Acosta to resign over his handling of a sex crimes case involving financier Jeffrey Epstein, President Trump defended Acosta, but also said he's mulling his future in the administration.
You're talking about a long time ago. And again, it was a decision made, I think, not by him, but by a lot of people. So we're going to look at it very carefully.
Acosta, when he was U.S. attorney in Miami, struck a plea deal with Epstein that has been criticized as too lenient. New sex trafficking charges in New York allege Epstein abused dozens of girls as young as 14. Lisa?
John, earlier today, President Trump calling the UK ambassador to the US wacky and very stupid in his latest tweet about recently leaked communications, describing the president as inept and insecure.
The president had said that the United States would no longer deal with the British ambassador, Sir Kim Darroch, but the State Department is saying that they are dealing with all accredited individuals and that they're going to continue to do so until they get that official guidance from the White House or the president. Usually when you hear that kind of language, you'll no longer deal with someone. That's about as close as you can get in diplomatic speak to saying that they're almost on their way home.
Fox's Rich Edson at the State Department. A spokesman for outgoing British Prime Minister Theresa May has called the leak unfortunate, but that the ambassador still has her full support, and that it's important for diplomats to be able to provide honest assessments. A mixed day on Wall Street. The Dow down 22 points at the closing bell, but the NASDAQ higher. This is Fox News.
Ah, the copperhead snake. It hisses before attacking. But that's not a copperhead. That's the Sullivan's RV freshwater tank overflowing into their black one, which is backing into their vent pipe, making for a very different kind of attack. One that arrives just in time for taco night. It's wild out there. When it gets too wild, Progressive has your RV covered. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
You make a million tough business decisions every day. So here's the easiest one of the year. Dell's Black Friday in July is back and bigger than ever. Get no-brainer deals on the very latest computers with Intel Core processors and a huge selection of servers, electronics, and more, all with free shipping on everything. To make your decision even easier, Dell's small business technology advisors can help you find just the right tech. Call 877-BUY-DELL. That's an easy call to make at 877-BUY-DELL or visit Dell.com/smallbusiness.
Death of an Indiana toddler on a cruise ship remains under investigation, but a family attorney now says the death was preventable and not the grandfather's fault. Investigators in Puerto Rico originally suggesting that the girl slipped from her grandfather's arms at a window.
18-month-old Chloe Wiegand, who was about to begin a week-long Caribbean cruise with her parents, 2 siblings, and all 4 grandparents. At the time of her death, according to the family attorney, she was in a child water zone play area with her maternal grandfather, which had glass walls around it, but one partition was open, and that the little girl went through it thinking it was like the glass at a hockey rink, but it was simply open air.
Fox's Phil Keating in Miami. The girl's father is a police officer in South Bend, Indiana. Federal health officials urging doctors and hospitals to be more proactive in identifying cases of a debilitating condition, especially in children, and possibly linked to viral infections.
A spike in cases of acute flaccid myelitis, or AFM, continues to cause concern at the U.S. Centers for Disease Control. It mostly affects children, leaving their limbs weakened and with breathing problems. It's not polio.
There's not any known association with this outbreaks that we've been seeing of AFM and parental choices about vaccines.
Dr. Ann Schuchat at the CDC says it could be triggered by a common virus as cases appear seasonally. They're hoping doctors will be more proactive in looking for it in their patients and in reporting their findings. Eben Brown, Fox News.
A special session on gun violence is over in Virginia. The state legislature adjourning after less than 2 hours with no agreement, in part because of infighting among majority Republicans. The state's Senate leader proposing a surprise bill to ban guns in government buildings statewide. Again, on Wall Street, it is a mixed finish. The Dow down 23. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. The second person accused of killing a Webster County woman will now spend the next 4 decades in prison. 28-year-old Mackenzie Carnegie was originally charged with murder in the 2017 death of Jessica Gomez. Carnegie reached a plea agreement with prosecutors, which included her pleading guilty to 3 felonies, attempting to commit murder, second-degree robbery, and desecration of a corpse. Carnegie and Indiana resident Philip Williams were charged with murdering Gomez after she was found dead in August 2017. Gomez had been reported missing a few days earlier. Carnegie will serve a mandatory 24 and a half years in prison before eligibility for parole. Williams pleaded guilty in April on 3 charges in conjunction with the case, including attempt to commit murder, abuse of a human corpse, and accessory after the fact. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison for his involvement. From Radio Iowa, former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper says if he convinces people he can win Iowa, he'll win the presidency. The former Colorado governor says his first abandoned foray into property development taught him not to give up on a great idea like his current campaign for the White House.
I'm going to keep pushing as long as I feel people are hearing something in me that for them is a solution to this crisis of division, all this animosity that this country is filled with right now.
Many of Hickenlooper's national staff and advisors left the campaign after urging the 67-year-old to run for Colorado's U.S. Senate instead. Hickenlooper says throughout his career, he's faced critics who say he's not the right person for the job of being mayor of Denver or governor of Colorado, but he persevered.
How do you win? If you're at 1% in the polls nationally, you win Iowa. That's how you win. You go out and you walk back and forth across Iowa, and you drive cars across Iowa, and you convince people that A, you're the best person for the job, and B, that you can win Iowa. And most people in Iowa, they feel that if you win Iowa, you're going to become the next president.
Hickenlooper says he may not be the smartest candidate in the race, but nobody will work harder.
There's not slick slogans, and it's going to take a while to turn the tide. But I believe I am different than anybody else. And I think that when people get to know that and hear it, I think they'll talk about it to their neighbors.
Hickenlooper spoke to crowds in Des Moines yesterday. He describes himself as a pragmatic progressive and argues he can win in swing states Donald Trump won in 2016. 22-year-old Fort Dodge resident Cameron Heller is facing a multitude of criminal charges. His preliminary hearing is set for July 15th on charges of threat of explosive or incendiary device, child endangerment, reckless use of fire or explosives, and public intoxication. The Fort Dodge City Council met last night with an abundance of items on the agenda for discussion. The most prominent topic discussed was the proposal to rezone the Sears building into the Center City and Industrial Park urban renewal areas. That proposal passed the council unanimously. At-large council member Jeffrey Halter said the idea behind placing the Sears site in the urban renewal area is so that the city can offer tax funding reimbursement to the owners of the Sears site after the owners have covered the initial cost of demolition. The reimbursement would occur after new tax revenue is generated by future usage of the site. The council also confirmed at last night's meeting that July 16th will be known as Dodger Denny Day, in honor of former Fort Dodge School District longtime employee and avid Fort Dodge Dodger fan Dennis Olson, a.k.a. Dodger Denny, who passed away July 16th of last year. In sports, the St. Edmunds Gales softball team with a win in the playoffs, 8-3 over Riceville last night. St. Edmunds will advance to take on AGWSR in Ackley on Wednesday. First pitch, 7 p.m. You can hear that game on Sunny 99.7. Fort Dodge softball set to host West Des Moines Valley tonight in a doubleheader to finish off the regular season. The Dodgers are coming off a doubleheader sweep of Mason City last night, 9-0 and 14-4. You can hear both of the games of the Double Dip tonight on Sunny 99.7, beginning at 5 p.m. That's your Alpha Media News and Sports update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Chance for scattered storms this afternoon, otherwise a blend of clouds and sun. High temperatures reach up to 85, winds out of the southwest 10 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies again. Tonight, lows dip down to about 67. Daytime highs approaching 78. Tomorrow, sunshine mixed with clouds at times. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 86.
In today's economy, it just makes sense to plan ahead. At Historic Bruce Funeral Home, pre-planning your funeral arrangements can save you money. By planning ahead, you can secure your arrangements at today's prices, no matter when our services are needed. Pre-planning your funeral is one of the most thoughtful things you can do for your family. Call us for details. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge. Online at brucesfuneralhome.com.
Adventure Bay Water Park is now open at Adventureland. Ride the waves and soak up the sun in the oceans of aquatic fun. Fun for the whole family, and it's all included with your admission to Adventureland Park. 2 great parks, all for one low price. Open daily at 10 a.m. in Des Moines.
Is it time for a new roof, or did your roof take a beating from Mother Nature? If so, here's some great advice from Hahn Roofing. When you're trying to decide on a contractor, never tolerate high-pressure sales tactics. Never sign a contract without a price. Never make a payment until your job is done. And never accept a job that is not installed to manufacturer specifications. No warranty, no deal. Make the right choice. Call Hahn Roofing today at 515-573-7440. That's 515-573-7440. Hahn Roofing, an Owens Corning Platinum contractor.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
That's right. We're making radio great again. We're getting it done, too. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm mellow today, so I'm going to play a little Grateful Dead once again, Ripple. No, I'm not currently drinking Ripple. It's against the rules. So we're going to talk to Steve Peterson instead, which is almost as good as Ripple. Steve Peterson is past president of the Webster County Farm Bureau, and this portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. So once again, how you doing, Steve? Good, Mike. Oh, I better turn your microphone on if I'm going to talk to you. There you go.
I'm good, Mike.
Now we're good. Now we're good. All right. So we were talking. We were kind of talking a little bit in the last hour about tiling and flooding and strange weather. In the 80s, it seemed to me we were concerned about drought. I mean, in the early 90s, we had a lot of hot days.
Yeah.
And when we didn't have rain at all for a long period of time, and temperatures in the 90s, and the soil was cracking and everything else.
Wasn't that long ago we had a pretty severe drought here?
Did we?
Like I think 2012.
Did we have one in 2012? Because I know there were pictures of corn that was stunted in the field, and the ground was cracked and terribly dry, and the plants were actually dying because of the heat and lack of moisture.
Historically, I think a lot of comparisons of this crop are to 1993. But that
93 was a bad year.
But that year was different. Everyone got planted, and then we got wet.
Right.
This is kind of backwards. This year we had trouble getting planted, and since then it seems like we're kind of getting in more of a what I would call a normal pattern. But
you think the last 2 years have been normal?
No, I'm saying just the last 2 weeks. I tend not to look out that far, but it looks like we're kind of entering a more normal phase, I guess, around here.
Right.
But, yeah, it's Iowa. hurry up and wait.
It
The
is.
weather will change. So looks like we're going to get some heat again. And
We are.
Accordingly, the Webster County Fair starts this week. So
That's right.
So
Farm Bureau's got a big presence out there.
yeah, we on Saturday is the Webster County Day at the fair out here. And again, I think 11 o'clock in the morning, 11 to 1, we do watermelon giveaway. We get a whole truckload of watermelon. We cut that up. Everyone enjoys that. That's a free deal. And then at 1 o'clock, we have the kiddie tractor pull, and a lot of kids, different age groups, they participate in that, and that's always a good time for them. And then at 5 o'clock, we start our sweet corn feed, and that's it's a partnership between the Farm Bureau and I know New Co-op. They cook the corn, and we have the pork producers, the beef producers. They're doing the burgers, and it's a free will donation, and all of the proceeds go back to the food banks in Webster County. So
sure,
it's a good cause. We've had great turnouts the last couple of years, and it's just it's a pretty enjoyable deal. So,
yeah. Are you going to work out there this year?
Oh yeah. Yep, we'll be there, and it's I
love that sweet corn. Did we get a good crop of sweet corn?
I don't know. In fact, I seen Larry Elliger on our board. He's our go-to guy that lines up the sweet corn. I just seen him this morning and asked him. I said, is our sweet corn, with all the dilemma this year, are we on board? And we get it, the Reinhardt family north of Boone. They grow a lot of sweet corn, and that's where we get it from. And they assured us that we would have a crop of sweet corn coming here today. There was I seen a stand right out by the hospital on top of the hill.
Oh, really?
It had sweet corn, and I did see a Grimes truck here in town today with sweet corn. So
guy came up from Grimes.
Yeah, that Grimes candy corn. So,
I like that.
On 15th there by the Aaron's rental, or right across from Mark's Auto Mart.
Yeah.
I seen their truck parked there this year
On Fifth Avenue South.
Fifth Avenue South. So
I'll have to swing by there and see if he's still there, because I do like that sort of thing.
Yeah, that was the first sweet corn stands I've seen. So obviously it's and I think too, they've got connections. Comes from other, maybe Missouri or something, but I think with all the troubles they had, it was kind of questionable where we would be right now for sweet corn. But
there is absolutely nothing better in the world than a summer meal of steak, sweet corn, and a little ice cold potato salad. That is there is no better meal.
That's quintessential Iowa.
That's quintessential Iowa, but you can go around the world. I have a time or two, but I never found any better food than that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I did notice 2 sweet corn stands today. So that's the first I've seen them. Yeah, so we'll, and then we have the 4-H kids. They shuck the corn.
Sure.
I think, I was with them a couple years ago and did. I think we do like 1,800 ears. So it's quite an event. And
1,800? Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's about 1,800 ears they shuck, and it's quite a process, and
that's a lot of shucking corn.
It is.
You think we got drones delivering groceries to the house? We could find some machine that would shuck corn for us.
But so the 4-H kids get involved in that, and it's just like I said, we've been involved in this for a number of years, and it's it's a good cause, and it's just all around involves a lot of groups in Webster County. But and then also, and I don't know a lot about it. The Clay County Farm Bureau, they own an equipment simulator, and it's going to be here at the Webster County Fair. And I've never seen it in person, but I've heard a lot of neat things about it. And it's basically a virtual reality simulator to drive farm equipment.
You were showing me something like that on your phone there. Now that's something else.
So it's I know that it's owned by the Clay County Farm Bureau, and they're going to have that down here. I believe, if I understood it right, the whole time at the Webster County Fair. So that's something some people. I know I'm going to check that out. But they say it's a really neat experience. So, it's not just for kids either. So, it's adults.
Do you go up to Clay County Fair a lot?
Every now and then.
I used to.
I enjoy that fair. It seems a little less commercialized than, the State Fair is such a big event, and the Clay County one, seems to me is more of a what the state fair kind of used to be when I was younger, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, the Clay County Fair, and I know a lot of people go up and camp, and they enjoy the Clay
Yeah,
County
they do. And I used to go up a lot when the Statler brothers were touring that country music group. They used to have good country acts, and I and Barbara Mandrell was up there all the time. And of course, I'd go see the machinery display because it was always huge. They had all the latest machinery always.
Yep, they still do.
And you could get a good meal in that fairgrounds anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one thing the Clay County Fair has over the state fair. The state fair has a lot of old big hot dogs and junk food. I mean, they do a lot of that. But then they got the pork producers up there and the beef producers and various church groups, and they're selling those church ladies are selling little sweets and the food is just a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
There's better food there all the way around. Not all that junk, I guess.
Yeah, and out here at the Webster County last year, that was one of the big. There's they kind of changed up the format of the fair a little bit and went more to a midway theme. And even last year, I noticed there was a lot more selection of food and vendors out here. And it looks like this year they've even expanded that further. So
I've always hoped, and I've mentioned it on the air a few times, we could get a little midway out there. But
yeah,
there are some people that believe in tradition, I think.
Yeah,
we never have, that attitude. Yeah. We've never had a midway, and why should we start now?
Yeah, well, last year I seen, like I said, it looked like a lot more selection of food, and it looks like this year it's going to expand more yet. So a lot of neat things happening out there, and plus, this is the culmination for a lot of kids and the 4-H. A lot of the hard work goes into them showing the animals.
That's true,
and
that's part of the fair. That's part of any fair.
Yeah, it's a big part of the local fair. So to see the kids showing their animals and it's just a neat experience. And for a lot of people that don't get to be around a lot of animals, it's an excellent just to go around and see the animals and talk to the kids. They're very proud of them.
The kids still show chickens or not?
I believe so.
I know they do down at the state fair.
Yeah, no, I believe so.
They show chickens and turkey and even rabbits.
Yep, rabbits and everything you can think of. They have the horse riding and that kind of stuff. The poultry a few years ago got shut when we had the avian flu.
Oh,
I believe that might be what you're thinking, but they didn't allow the poultry side of things. That was about 2015.
Yeah,
they ceased the poultry at all the fairs that year because of the avian flu outbreak. This year, the pork, Greg Horror, and I'm going to probably say it wrong, the Pork Congress or what they have at Des Moines. Now that was
canceled because of the swine fever,
African swine fever. But the county fairs will still go on because the trouble that they were afraid of was because of the international exposure,
right?
On the Pork Congress, where the county fairs, being more domestic, it's not as we don't have it here in the United States, so they're confident there.
Sure.
So, but yeah, no, it's a neat deal to go out and see all the animals and the projects the kids do and there's, like I said, there's so many activities. I think if you go to their Facebook page, there's list of what's going on, and I printed one off. It's kind of hard to read, and there's so many events on there. It's pretty
impressive.
There's something for everybody.
I would say so. Yeah, it's a nice little fair.
There is,
and I'm not going to do it this year, but in years past, almost every year in years past, I've gone out to called figure 8 races. Those are always pretty popular. And
yeah, and a lot of the buildings have been getting some improvements done to them. I think Iowa Central has their rodeo clubs out there, and they've done some improvements there. I believe the sheep barn, they've put new flooring, new concrete in their building. Our Farm Bureau Pavilion, which is just north of the main building there, that had concrete added to it this year. And I like the antique tractors. They turn the ice cream out there with the steam engine, and that's kind of neat to see. A lot of that stuff.
I was at the fair last year when they had State Fair last year when they had their antique tractor day. They were all down the Grand Concourse there. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah. So, and there's the antique tractor clubs around here. They're very proud of the work they do and the collections that the individuals present out there. So, like I said, there's something for everyone. And then the equipment dealers, they'll bring a sample of some of the new equipment too. So you get quite a contrast between the old and the new. And then the pig shows and the beef and all that, they're kind of the premier, I guess, of the fair. And I think last year some Pierce Woodruff, I think, went down to win the state coming out of Webster County. So
I think I heard that. Yeah.
So there's been some good showings right out of Webster County that have done quite well at the state. So and they all put a lot of work into it. It's amazing the work and the effort that they put into those things.
Yeah. So guys, that's this Saturday.
Yeah, it's fair time already.
I don't believe that.
So
I don't believe it.
It's hard to believe the 4th of July is already over with, and then
it is.
And then it seems like it's it'll be State Fair next, and then we'll be talking harvest. And that's kind of a big wild card right now. And
we just got a late spring. Of course, we didn't have a spring.
Not really a spring.
No, we just, winter ended and bang, here we are in summer now.
And, it's just, like I said, it's farming for us. It's a lot of uncertainties. And for the last year, we've been talking tariffs and different trade deals.
Are you kidding me that USMCA still isn't done? Those damn Democrats, they just don't want to give Trump a victory of any kind. They just want to keep pointing fingers and say, oh, it's his fault. No, it's your fault. God.
It's held up right now in the House. I think Speaker Pelosi just has to put it on the floor for a vote.
That's all it needs to be done. Let's not kid ourselves here.
I believe by all accounts the votes are there to pass it. There's they're saying they want reassurances or on a little bit of language, but every indication is that it's ready to roll through. The Chinese deal, we kind of hit a reset, I guess, again after the G20. I'm kind of getting the feeling that I'm just not certain we're going to see a trade deal with China now, because I think they're going to probably stall and wait out till the election next year.
God, that's obscene. That's a sin, is what that is.
I think they're going to they're either. I think the train of thought is,
that doesn't get reported in the papers. You don't hear that on television, that the Democrats are doing these mean-spirited delay tactics to deny Trump a victory, and we all suffer here in the Midwest. And then they'll say that's because you voted for Trump.
Yeah,
we're punishing you. You voted for Trump.
Well, I just soon put these projects on the floor and let them lay where they lay. And,
I guess,
and let them vote. But in some of the and the talk on the Chinese thing is there's two trains of thought. One is that Trump will do anything to get it done, so he might have to negotiate down, and he's still kind of playing hardball with the Chinese. And the other train is that the Chinese are just going to kind of kick the can down the road to see what happens in the next election. So what'll happen in between then, I really don't know. And
who does? God.
But it definitely as farming goes, back in March, we had more probably a train of thought that corn would have a $2 and something for corn and probably a 6 or 7 for soybeans. And then with the flip and the weather and all the circumstances, I guess, that happened this year, we've kind of got a bump in prices, but what'll happen next year. And then with the uncertainty of the trade deal, it's really hard to make a decision going forward on that.
Sure.
So it's kind of impossible, really. And it's just another level of uncertainty, which unfortunately it seems to be the norm now for agriculture in the Midwest. But little kind of glimpse of hope lately in the hog market, it looks like. But I
can't get Greg to come in here, Greg Gore to come in here anymore. I don't know.
He's busy.
He is a busy man.
He's a busy guy.
He's a busy man, that's for sure. So.
Yeah. So, and the African swine fever, it's still going rampant. It's kind of lost, I guess, its luster on the news. You don't hear a lot about it, but it is no more contained now than it was a few weeks ago or a few months ago. So it continues to spread. There's kind of a rift now between Canada and China over some imported pork and some supposedly forged documents. So how that's going to play out, it's the thing the United States has going for it is we have an abundant and steady supply of quality, safe meat and protein.
Let's pray that continues.
Right.
Steve Peterson has been our guest. He's past president of the Webster County Farm Bureau in this portion of the program. Brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. Remember, the fair starts this week. Actually, tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow.
All right. Steve, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
That's right. It's exactly 3:30. The news is next. We'll talk with Aaron Putzi then about a great book he has written. Aaron, of course, used to be with the Soybean Association. All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD.
Have you heard what President Trump said recently?
Newsmax, you like Newsmax. I like it too.
Now you can watch Newsmax TV and get the truth about Trump from Bill O'Reilly, Mike Reagan, Alan Dershowitz, Pat Buchanan, and more. Newsmax TV is America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in 70 million homes. Find Newsmax on DirecTV, Dish, Xfinity, Spectrum, Optimum, Fios, Uverse, and more systems. See Newsmax TV today. It's real news for real people.
Hey guys, Ken here from Income Store. Did you know of the top 10 reasons an employee stays at a company for more than 2 years? The 7th reason is the pay or the salary. The first 6 reasons have nothing to do with money. Things like they feel part of a team. They know they belong, their voice is heard, they're respected. Also, employees go through 5 phases within a couple days to 6 months of any new position. Excitement, education, reality, doubt, then clarity. Did you know it's a manager's job to walk them to clarity as fast as possible? If you need to know these fundamental principles, did I just say that? I'm going to leave that in. If you need to know these fundamental principles, I can't say this. This is awesome. This is like a blooper roll. Hey, you know what? If you need tips and techniques like this to grow your business today, you got to check out door number 1 of Income Store. If you just need somebody to literally hold your hand and get you to the finish line, check out door number 2 of IncomeStore.com. That's IncomeStore.com.
All money managers might seem the same, but while some give their clients cookie-cutter portfolios, Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to your goals and needs. Some only call when they have something to sell. Fisher calls regularly, so you stay informed. And while some advisors are happy to earn commissions whether you do well or not, Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when you do better. In other words, we're on your side. Maybe that's why most of our clients come from other money managers. So if you're in or nearing retirement, talk with us and find out why investors are switching to and staying with Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments, clearly better money management. Investments in securities involve the risk of loss. Visit us at FisherInvestments.com to find out what we can do for you.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. The second person accused of killing a Webster County woman will now spend the next 4 decades in prison. 28-year-old Mackenzie Carnegie was originally charged with murder in the 2017 death of Jessica Gomez. Carnegie reached a plea agreement with prosecutors, which included her pleading guilty to 3 felonies, attempting to commit murder, second-degree robbery, and desecration of a corpse. Carnegie and Indiana resident Philip Williams were charged with murdering Gomez after she was found dead in August 2017. Gomez had been reported missing a few days earlier. Carnegie will serve a mandatory 24 and a half years in prison before eligibility for parole. Williams pleaded guilty in April on 3 charges in conjunction with the case, including attempt to commit murder, abuse of a human corpse, and accessory after the fact. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison for his involvement. From Radio Iowa, former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper says if he convinces people he can win Iowa, he'll win the presidency. The former Colorado governor says his first abandoned foray into property development taught him not to give up on a great idea like his current campaign for the White House.
I'm going to keep pushing as long as I feel people are hearing something in me that for them is a solution to this crisis of division, all this animosity that this country is filled with right now.
Many of Hickenlooper's national staff and advisors left the campaign after urging the 67-year-old to run for Colorado's U.S. Senate instead. Hickenlooper says throughout his career, he's faced critics who say he's not the right person for the job of being mayor of Denver or governor of Colorado, but he persevered.
How do you win? If you're at 1% in the polls nationally, you win Iowa. That's how you win. You go out and you walk back and forth across Iowa, and you drive cars across Iowa, and you convince people that A, you're the best person for the job, and B, that you can win Iowa. And most people in Iowa, they feel that if you win Iowa, you're going to become the next president.
Hickenlooper says he may not be the smartest candidate in the race, but nobody will work harder.
There's not slick slogans, and it's going to take a while to turn the tide. But I believe I am different than anybody else. And I think that when people get to know that and hear it, I think they'll talk about it to their neighbors.
Hickenlooper spoke to crowds in Des Moines yesterday. He describes himself as a pragmatic progressive and argues he can win in swing states Donald Trump won in 2016. 22-year-old Fort Dodge resident Cameron Heller is facing a multitude of criminal charges. His preliminary hearing is set for July 15th on charges of threat of explosive or incendiary device, child endangerment, reckless use of fire or explosives, and public intoxication. The Fort Dodge City Council met last night with an abundance of items on the agenda for discussion. The most prominent topic discussed was the proposal to rezone the Sears building into the Center City and Industrial Park urban renewal areas. That proposal passed the council unanimously. At-large council member Jeffrey Halter said the idea behind placing the Sears site in the urban renewal area is so that the city can offer tax funding reimbursement to the owners of the Sears site after the owners have covered the initial cost of demolition. The reimbursement would occur after new tax revenue is generated by future usage of the site. The council also confirmed at last night's meeting that July 16th will be known as Dodger Denny Day, in honor of former Fort Dodge School District longtime employee and avid Fort Dodge Dodger fan Dennis Olson, a.k.a. Dodger Denny, who passed away July 16th of last year. In sports, the St. Edmunds Gales softball team with a win in the playoffs 8-3 over Riceville last night. St. Edmunds will advance to take on AGWSR in Ackley on Wednesday. First pitch, 7 p.m. You can hear that game on Sunny 99.7. Fort Dodge softball set to host West Des Moines Valley tonight in a doubleheader to finish off the regular season. The Dodgers are coming off a doubleheader sweep of Mason City last night, 9-0 and 14-4. You can hear both of the games of the Double Dip tonight on Sunny 99.7, beginning at 5 p.m. That's your Alpha Media News and Sports update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Chance for scattered storms this afternoon, otherwise a blend of clouds and sun. High temperatures reach up to 85, winds out of the southwest 10 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies again. Tonight, lows dip down to about 67. Daytime highs approaching 78. Tomorrow, sunshine mixed with clouds at times. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 86.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 6 3/4 at 431 3/4. September down 7 cents at 432 1/2. December corn down 6 1/2 at 437 1/4. March down 6 at 444 1/2. July soybeans up 7 1/2 cents at 882 3/4. August up 7 at 886. September up 6 1/2 at 891 3/4. November up 6 1/2 at 904 1/4. July wheat closed down 7 cents at 509 3/4. Soybean meal up 370 a ton at 307.90. August live cattle up 197 at 108.12. October up 190 at 109.30. August feeder cattle up 397 at 142.87. September up 437 at 143.12. July lean hogs up $1.30 to close at 71.37. August up the $3 limit to close at 79.07. I'm Dwayne Murley.
I'm Jamie Brundage, owner of Historic Bruce Funeral Home. We're a full-service funeral home with an off-site crematory. At Bruce's, we specialize in pre-arrangements and family support before, during, and after the service. We also offer beautiful memorial items to help you remember your loved one forever. Bruce Funeral Home is proud to be by your side every step of the way throughout the funeral process. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
Okay, this is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. You can always join the program by calling 515-955-1400. You can check us out live on YouTube by going to 1400 KVFD. Now, if you are watching on YouTube, 1400 KVFD, you'll see me holding up a book. And this book was written by our next guest, who is Aaron Putze. And we have, that's a familiar name to all of you because Aaron was with the Iowa Soybean Association. Hi, Aaron. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing great, and I still am, Mike.
I was going to just ask you. I made that sound like you were in the past tense. I didn't really mean to. I guess I didn't know for sure if you were still with the Soybean Association.
Yes, very important caveat. Yes, please do not leave that off.
No, I will not. Aaron Putze has been with the Soybean Association, but on this radio station a number of times in the past. The Soybean Association, of course, is a great organization. But here again is the book. If you can see it on YouTube, it says, "You are destined for greatness. You are destined for greatness. Stories of inspiration and empowerment." And this is by our guest, Aaron Putze. Now, there are 16 different stories here, which and they include inspirational stories. And I've read the book. It's a good read. It's a quick read, and you'll come away feeling better. Now, how much reading material out there can you say that about? But some of the people featured are Terry Branstad. I think we know who he is. The A&E Dairy CEO, Miriam Erickson Brown. The Hy-Vee Chair CEO, Randy Edeker. Iowa Sports Foundation CEO Chuck Long, and retired Casey's General Manager and CEO Bob Myers. Also, Gene Meyer, Greater Fort Dodge Des Moines Partnership. Suku Radia, I'm probably screwing up that name, President and retired from Bankers Trust. Scott Raker, CEO of the Robert D. and Beverly Ray Foundation. Terry Rich, author, speaker, retired of the Iowa Lottery. Kirk Tyler, Atlantic Coca-Cola Bottling Company. President Wendy Winterstein of Iowa State University. She is the president, of course. So this is pretty impressive, Aaron. What prompted you to write this book?
Well, this was, first of all, thank you for having me join you today, Mike. Just a real treat to be part of your program. It really was an offshoot of Destined for Greatness, which was the book that I authored, a biography on Iowa Hawkeyes great Chuck Long. And in some of those early conversations in 2015 into 2016, there were just many leadership principles that came through my conversations with Hayden Fry, Kirk Ferentz, Chuck Long, and others. And I was originally just going to have those conversations be a chapter within Chuck's biography, but pretty soon I was visiting with many of the names that you mentioned there, and you grew from a chapter into a couple of chapters into a standalone book, and You Are Destined for Greatness was born.
What characteristic do all leaders have, do you believe?
Well, there are many that they will say they have, but I think the true leaders are characterized by having humility. I think that's a fundamental core element of effective leadership. The ability to own setbacks and share success, which you could also define as humility, a principle of humility. Hard work, a work ethic. As you notice in the book, there's a lot of agricultural elements in it, mainly because I grew up on a farm. But also, it's a uniquely Iowa perspective on leadership, and you can't get too far in Iowa without revisiting our agricultural heritage, and many of the things that we take for granted were born on the farm and continue to be so. But the work ethic, a major theme throughout, as you noticed, Mike, in perusing the book, and just the dedication to continuous improvement. None of us truly arrive. We're all kind of a work in progress. And that includes our personal and professional growth.
You mentioned humility, and that is a recurring theme throughout the book. You talked about humility in the case of Harrison Barnes, and there's a picture.
Yeah, great story, and I appreciate you mentioning that one and plucking that one out from the book. I had a random chance meeting with Harrison Barnes, a very accomplished Iowa high school athlete from Ames High School. Went on to play at North Carolina in college basketball, went on and is having a really solid professional career in the NBA. And he was the guest speaker at the Iowa Summer Games Athlete Jamboree in 2014. And I was there in my role with the Iowa Soybean Association as a sponsor of Live Healthy Iowa and the Iowa Games. So I had a front row seat for his keynote to hundreds of high school and younger and older athletes and parents there. And he shared a story about what it was like to transition from being an Iowa athlete and an Iowa star to moving on to the collegiate and then the professional level, and how people would look at him, Mike, every now and then and say, "Hey, you're from Iowa, really? I mean, how much competition is there in Iowa? And you may be a star there, but this is a whole nother ball game." And he would just with humility and humbleness, he would look at him and say, "You know what? Don't mistake Iowa Knights for not having drive and talent and athleticism and work ethic." And he proved it every day, getting to where he is today. And I just thought it was such an inspirational story, and one that needed to be included in the book. And he was so kind in 2014 when he shared his story that he gave me a copy of his prepared remarks, and I then in turn included that in You Are Destined for Greatness. A fun story and a really good story, especially for our young people.
Well, I picked that one out, Aaron, and our guest is Aaron Putzi, and he is the author of You Are Destined for Greatness. Where is the book available, Aaron?
It is available primarily right now in central Iowa at the Machine Shed Restaurant. There are some Hy-Vee stores that carry it. You can find it at Beaverdale Books here in the Des Moines area. It's also, of course, available on Amazon. But you can also order it direct from author. So for those who would like to order a copy, Mike, direct from me and have it signed, they could just go to www.putzink, and that's PUTZEINK.com. And they can order direct from there, and all direct from author orders will benefit Junior Achievement now through August.
Well, there's two guys I picked out in this book. Harrison Barnes, one of them. We just talked about him a little bit. And when you talk about Iowa competition, I saw him play here twice in Fort Dodge when he was still in high school. And the Fort Dodge kids acquitted themselves pretty well. They almost won a game. Now, Barnes was the top athlete on the court. There's no doubt about that. But you can say that in almost any game. You can pick out the stud on the court, so to speak. And Barnes was that guy. But I will have to say the Fort Dodge kids fought hard. And Barnes performed, of course, at a top level. And when it was time for him to go to college, he did. And he's still in the pros. I heard about him just the other day. He was traded again. He's had a career where he's moved around quite a bit. I don't know where he is. Maybe with the Mavericks, or maybe he left the Mavericks. I don't know. But I'll tell you, that guy's a great athlete. And it was interesting to see him in your book. And the book, again, is You Are Destined for Greatness by Aaron Putzi. The other guy I picked out was a guy by the name of Gene Meyer, because I'd never heard the name before in my life. But I read I read this piece with great interest. And while I was reading about Gene Meyer, again, a man I've never heard about, it occurred to me that there are better known names in this book. But it's guys like Gene Meyer who hold the world together. Gene Meyer and all the Gene Meyers in the world who you think are average guys, they're responsible for the good things in the world that we live in when you get right down to it.
Well, it's very well said. And he's an inspiration in his role with the Greater Des Moines Partnership and the roles that he has served in just leading. He's what I call that leadership in action. He just doesn't talk the talk, but also walks the walk. And another person in this book that I just learned so much in having a conversation with, and of course I had known, President Winterstein prior to interviewing her for the book, but in her role primarily as the Dean of the College of Agriculture at Iowa State, and of course then transitioned to the presidency here within the last year and a half or so. But she spent a lot of time talking about the importance of listening. And you asked earlier, what's a defining characteristic of a good leader? I'd have to put listening right there as well. Now, I fail at that miserably. But
I do too.
Good leaders don't. They're good listeners, and she tells some stories about in her early years in the professional ranks of always being able to answer the questions that nobody was asking. And I always found that she would and she learned from that, and she learned to slow down, truly listen, and you're most effective when you understand what's being asked of you. You can then respond in the correct way. And so there's a lot about the importance of listening and how that can serve you and help you be a very effective leader.
Well, you have a chapter in the book, chapter 14. It's entitled "Listen, Really Listen." By the way, this is kind of a study guide. This is just not a book full of inspirational stories. There are pages here with questions like who believes in you, and an area in the book where you can write down the names. How have they helped you? Write them a note this week, thanking them and letting them know how much their faith in you matters to you. Those are important things.
And I appreciate you mentioning the questions that end each chapter. My hope was that each chapter, each theme in the book, by asking questions and posing questions at the end of every chapter, that those questions could be a catalyst, Mike, for those who can then put the book in action. Leadership is action. Leadership isn't just memorizing verses and being able to recite things. It's about doing. And I wanted the book not just to be something that people read when they're at 35,000 feet in the air, or when they have, a few minutes, at the start of the day. I wanted it to be something that comes to life. I wanted the stories in the book to motivate for those for readers to ask themselves their own question. How can I apply what's shared in the book to my life? How can it be relevant for me? How can it help me live more, give more, and achieve more? And I think the questions at the end of every chapter help do that.
Well, again, if you're watching and listening on 1400 KVFD on YouTube, I'm holding up the book that we're talking about. It's You Are Destined for Greatness by Aaron Putzi, story of inspiration and empowerment. And we got to talk about Chuck Long, of course. Chuck Long, one of the better known and greatest of the University of Iowa Hawkeye quarterbacks. He had a career in the National Football League and in coaching. He's back here in Iowa now, which we're glad to have him back home. And I like a lot of people on radio, I've talked with Chuck several times. Good guy, very accessible. Nothing phony about him at all. Here he is. He's Chuck Long, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, well said. That's a perfect way to introduce Chuck. He's the real deal. very humble, very accessible, as you said. And, he has a prominent place in this book because it was his story that really helped prompt the writing of this book. And it motivated me in many ways, telling his story, to then reach out to 26 other people and help tell their story because, Chuck will be the last to admit, but many of the themes in this book he embodies. And so, interestingly enough, as Chuck often says, how ironic that he went on to start at Iowa and now works out of Ames, Iowa. But, your listeners, it's not a Hawkeye 2.0 book. There are Iowa State athletes in this book. A couple of names that may ring a bell with folks. Jim Canute, Senior Vice President of Farm Credit Services, was a very successful wide receiver for Iowa State and caught passes from John Quinn. He's also in the book. John currently serves as the Chief of Police for the city of Waukee, which I believe is one of the fastest growing communities of non-Iowa in the nation. So a lot of interesting ties in there, all coming back. And, the sports is going to be represented in the book because there's so many examples of teamwork, which is a leadership characteristic of humility and sharing success. A lot of those themes in sports are relevant to life.
As I read this book and I read quotes on leadership from varied people, Terry Branstad, U.S. Ambassador to China, Bob Myers, retired CEO of Casey's General Store. I never heard or read any of them say, well, it got to be too much, so I quit. Not once. Not once.
That's a great perspective. I've never heard it put quite that way.
Yeah.
They were always open to the next challenge, weren't they? And
They were.
You mentioned Bob Myers, retired CEO of Casey's. To think when he came back from serving our country and was reunited with his high school buddy, Don Lamberti, that Don said, "Hey, Bob, I'm looking at building a distribution center in a little Ankeny, Iowa. Would you be interested?" And Bob took that on and didn't even stand around to ask what his starting salary would be. He just took it on, and it was the perfect role for Bob with his military background, his attention to detail, but also has such a human touch. I had an opportunity to walk the halls of Casey's corporate several years ago on a one-on-one tour of the facility with Bob. And what amazed me was how many people, and we're talking hundreds, if not more, employees at their office here in Ankeny, how many people he knew by their first names, just because he was a person who walked the halls, he knew the people. He wasn't just the CEO that was in the corner suite or the C-suite someplace, but he was out there visiting and working with employees. It's that kind of human touch that I also distinguish as true leadership.
Aaron Pudsey has been our guest. Let me hold this book up for you YouTube people one more time. This is the book, You Are Destined for Greatness, Stories of Inspiration and Empowerment. It's a great book. And again, an inspirational book. It's an easy read, but it's a book with meaning. And you can find out more by going to www.putsyinc.com or via Facebook at Pudsey Inc. I'd recommend it. And I want to thank you, Aaron Pudsey, for being on the air with us, and hope to talk with you soon in your capacity as author and with the Iowa Soybean Association. Thank you very much, Aaron.
You bet. Thank you so much, Mike.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
We stand for people, progress and pride. Iowa Farm Bureau's by your side.
We're the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we believe in Iowa's future. We support Iowa's youth, encourage ag innovations, and nurture new business opportunities in rural communities. We're a century strong and growing. To learn more, contact your local county farm bureau.
It's gift time at Merle Norman. Receive 2 convenient trial sizes of our #1 selling wrinkle smoother system with the purchase of any foundation primer. Available for a limited time only right now at Merle Norman, located inside Mary Kay's Gifts and Home Decor, 1108 Central Avenue, downtown Fort Dodge.
Your gift is free with the purchase of any Merle Norman foundation primer. Cosmetic accessories not included. Offer valid while supplies last at participating Merle Norman Cosmetic Studios beginning July 1st, 2019. Limit 1 per customer. They reserve the right to substitute individual components of gift.
Connect to this radio station from all across the country. Take us to the gym, shopping. How about a road trip? Listen to us now on the free iHeartRadio app. You'll never miss a moment with your favorite radio station. Download the free iHeartRadio app and search for this station so we can go wherever you want us to.
To keep your vehicle running at its best, keep up with routine maintenance. The certified service techs at Humboldt Motor Sales make maintaining your vehicle easy. They offer convenient hours and competitive prices on all service and parts. And they take care of your GM warranty needs too. From oil changes to tires, brakes to batteries, engine repair and transmission repair, Humboldt Motor Sales can handle it all. Have your vehicle serviced soon at Humboldt Motor Sales. Log on to HumboldtGM.com to schedule an appointment now or call 800-566-8671.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 3:59. Fox News coming up. The local news is coming up. David Furyk was on vacation last week. I don't know if he's back this week or not, but if David Furyk's in town, he's next on the agenda, followed by Dr. Dean Stanzel of Southern Methodist University. Yeah, it's summertime in Iowa. There could be rain later on today, but don't let that stop you. Get out there and have a good time. It's 84 degrees, KVFD, Fort Dodge, Iowa. It's 4 o'clock.
For exciting Panther sports, keep it right here on your home for University of Northern Iowa sports in North Central Iowa. The voice of Fort Dodge, KVFD, Fort Dodge.
A renewed fight over health care. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. A federal appeals court in New Orleans hearing a state-led effort to challenge the Affordable Care Act as unconstitutional now that Congress has repealed the individual mandate, the tax penalty for not buying insurance. Democrats say it's part of a Republican effort to scrap Obamacare.
Shame on them. The stakes can't be higher.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says millions of Americans will suffer if Obamacare is tossed out in court. Senate Republican Leader Mitch McConnell.
I think the important thing for the public to know is there's nobody in the Senate not in favor of covering pre-existing conditions. Nobody.
He says if that protection were lost, the Senate would act quickly to restore it. The case could also end up back before the U.S. Supreme Court. A growing number of Democrats calling for Labor Secretary Alexander Acosta to step down over the handling of a previous case against Jeffrey Epstein when Acosta was a federal prosecutor.
What I do know is that he's been a great, really great Secretary of Labor. The rest of it we'll have to look at. We'll have to look at it very carefully.
President Trump adding that while he did know Epstein, he wasn't a fan. Acosta tweeting support earlier today for the new federal case against Epstein in New York. He's accused of sexually abusing dozens of underage girls. The family of an Indiana toddler who fell through a window to her death on a cruise ship says she did not drop from her grandfather's arms as initially reported. Instead, the family says it happened in a children's area that appeared to be secure with fixed windows and no warning signs.
Royal Caribbean needs to answer this question is why would you ever in a kids play area put windows that passengers can open?
Family attorney Michael Winkleman.
And it was reasonable for Sam, the grandfather, to think that this was all glass because from his perspective, it was all glass.
The ship has moved on, but the family remains in Puerto Rico waiting for the girl's body to be released as the investigation continues. This is Fox News.
Ah, the bull elk's bugle, one of nature's most wondrous sounds. That is not a bull elk, that's Kim. Her RV sewage tank is spewing all over her camper. Way, way out in the middle of elk country. Yep, there's an elk. And that's Kim. It's wild out there. When it gets too wild, Progressive has your RV covered. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
You make a million tough business decisions every day. So here's the easiest one of the year. Dell's Black Friday in July is back and bigger than ever. Get no-brainer deals on the very latest computers with Intel Core processors and a huge selection of servers, electronics, and more, all with free shipping on everything. To make your decision even easier, Dell's small business technology advisors can help you find just the right tech. Call 877-BUY-DELL. That's an easy call to make at 877-BUY-DELL or visit Dell.com/small business.
Former presidential hopeful Ross Perot has died.
The Texas billionaire was best known for his two presidential campaigns, particularly his run in 1992 against then Governor Bill Clinton and incumbent President George H.W. Bush. Ed Rollins helped manage that campaign.
He had a disdain for the mainstream media. He loved Larry King. He loved the Today Show. He loved certain people that treated him well.
Winning nearly 20 million popular votes, Perot was viewed as an outsider who may have cost President Bush a second term.
Fox's Rachel Sutherland. Perot was 89. He died early today after a battle with leukemia. A new entry in the 2020 race.
Billionaire investor and activist Tom Steyer making it official on Twitter, writing, "It's true, I'm running for president." Also releasing this campaign video.
I think what people believe is that the system has left them. I think people believe that the corporations have bought the democracy, that the politicians don't care about or respect them.
Steyer, who's been advocating for President Trump's impeachment, joins the crowded race for the Democratic presidential nomination that he would forego a run. Steyer said his campaign will focus on reducing the influence of corporations in politics. He also plans to target climate change. At the White House, John Decker, Fox News.
There's a new option for Uber fans.
The ride-hailing giant is launching Comfort Rides, a new service where passengers can let their driver know in advance that they like a little less conversation and more legroom. Riders are guaranteed a minimum amount of space in cars less than 5 years old and can use the drivers they don't want to chat. The fee for Comfort Rides will cost 20 to 40% more than standard Uber rides. The company's new features are in response to requests from business travelers and other riders.
Fox's Hillary Barsky. A mixed finish on Wall Street. The Dow slips 23 points, but the S&P and the Nasdaq were higher. I'm Lisa Brady. And this is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. The second person accused of killing a Webster County woman will now spend the next 4 decades in prison. 28-year-old Mackenzie Carnegie was originally charged with murder in the 2017 death of Jessica Gomez. Carnegie reached a plea agreement with prosecutors, which included her pleading guilty to 3 felonies, attempting to commit murder, second-degree robbery, and desecration of a corpse. Carnegie and Indiana resident Philip Williams were charged with murdering Gomez after she was found dead in August 2017. Gomez had been reported missing a few days earlier. Carnegie will serve a mandatory 24 and a half years in prison before eligibility for parole. Williams pleaded guilty in April on 3 charges in conjunction with the case, including attempt to commit murder, abuse of a human corpse, and accessory after the fact. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison for his involvement. From Radio Iowa, former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper says if he convinces people he can win Iowa, he'll win the presidency. The former Colorado governor says his first abandoned foray into property development taught him not to give up on a great idea like his current campaign for the White House.
I'm going to keep pushing as long as I feel people are hearing something in me that for them is a solution to this crisis of division, all this animosity that this country is filled with right now.
Many of Hickenlooper's national staff and advisors left the campaign after urging the 67-year-old to run for Colorado's U.S. Senate instead. Hickenlooper says throughout his career, he's faced critics who say he's not the right person for the job of being mayor of Denver or governor of Colorado, but he persevered.
How do you win? If you're at 1% in the polls nationally, you win Iowa. That's how you win. You go out and you walk back and forth across Iowa and you drive cars across Iowa and you convince people that A, you're the best person for the job, and B, that you can win Iowa. And most people in Iowa, they feel that if you win Iowa, you're going to become the next president.
Hickenlooper says he may not be the smartest candidate in the race, but nobody will work harder.
There's not slick slogans and, it's going to take a while to turn the tide. But I believe I am different than anybody else. And I think that when people get to know that and hear it, I think they'll talk about it to their neighbors.
Hickenlooper spoke to crowds in Des Moines yesterday. He describes himself as a pragmatic progressive and argues he can win in swing states Donald Trump won in 2016. 22-year-old Fort Dodge resident Cameron Heller is facing a multitude of criminal charges. His preliminary hearing is set for July 15th on charges of threat of explosive or incendiary device, child endangerment, reckless use of fire or explosives, and public intoxication. The Fort Dodge City Council met last night with an abundance of items on the agenda for discussion. The most prominent topic discussed was the proposal to rezone the Sears building into the Center City and Industrial Park urban renewal areas. That proposal passed the council unanimously. At-large council member Jeffrey Halter said the idea behind placing the Sears site in the urban renewal area is so that the city can offer tax funding reimbursement to the owners of the Sears site after the owners have covered the initial cost of demolition. The reimbursement would occur after new tax revenue is generated by future usage of the site. The council also confirmed at last night's meeting that July 16th will be known as Dodger Denny Day, in honor of former Fort Dodge School District longtime employee and avid Fort Dodge Dodger fan Dennis Olson, a.k.a. Dodger Denny, who passed away July 16th of last year. In sports, the St. Edmunds Gales softball team with a win in the playoffs 8-3 over Riceville last night. St. Edmunds will advance to take on AGWSR in Ackley on Wednesday. First pitch, 7 p.m. You can hear that game on Sunny 99.7. Fort Dodge softball set to host West Des Moines Valley tonight in a doubleheader to finish off the regular season. The Dodgers are coming off a doubleheader sweep of Mason City last night, 9-0 and 14-4. You can hear both of the games of the Double Dip tonight on Sunny 99.7, beginning at 5 p.m. That's your Alpha Media News and Sports update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Chance for scattered storms this afternoon, otherwise a blend of clouds and sun. High temperatures reach up to 85, winds out of the southwest 10 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies again. Tonight, lows dip down to about 67. Daytime highs approaching 78. Tomorrow, sunshine mixed with clouds at times. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 85.
Eggs are typically thought of as a breakfast food, but their low cost and nutrition makes them appropriate for any meal of the day. Hi, I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. At 17 cents a serving, eggs are the least expensive source of high-quality protein. Eggs are also an easy way to rack up protein in any dish, with one large egg containing 6 grams of protein and 9 essential amino acids, all for 70 calories. The American Egg Board started a new campaign to highlight some ways eggs can be added to dinner. Sophia Therios with the American Egg Board says dinner eggs are a humorous approach to getting people to consider making eggs a staple at dinner time as well as breakfast.
The egg can actually be a solution for the most challenging problem that consumers have, which is what's for dinner tonight. So they have a wonderful ingredient right in their homes that is delicious and nutritious and really versatile, can work with everything. And so we wanted to make them think of eggs for dinner in a really fun way.
Some of the recipes include Ninja's egg and mushroom pizza by the slice, Krabby Abby's egg and cheese meltdown.
Beginning with the kind of recipes that people are having for dinner and those weekly staples, and showing how eggs can be incorporated.
For egg recipes or more information, visit dinnereggs.com or incredibleegg.org. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
We are the boy band. Your tween made you see. We are the boy band. It's Painful Concert number 3. We are the boy band. We're 5 and 19. We are the boy band. Always singing on key.
You love your kids enough to take them to see their favorite band. Love them enough to make sure they're buckled up in the back seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Here's that song again. Here's that song again. For the 100th time today. Here's that song again. It's gonna be stuck in your head all day. Here's that song again. It will make you cray cray.
You love your kids enough to watch that TV show a bajillion times. Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat for their age and size. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You can dance, having the time of your life.
What? Oh, okay. It's a commercial for an ABBA tribute, not an actual ABBA tribute. Gotcha. Don't miss ABBA Revisited, the #1 ABBA tribute in the world. Friday, August 23rd at Wild Rose Casino and Resort Jefferson. Tickets available now at the Iowa store and online at wildroseresorts.com.
Meaningful memorialization starts when loved ones talk about what matters most.
Grandpa, this card asks, what was your favorite vacation?
Well, we didn't go on vacation when I was a kid, but our family did go fishing when we could. My dad could always find the best fishing holes, and he taught me how to clean the fish, too.
You mean you ate the fish you caught?
You bet.
Sharing stories and memories with those who matter most isn't just important today, it will be especially significant when it's time to honor a life lived. Contact Gunderson Funeral Home to learn more about having the talk of a lifetime.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
You don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
It's nice to know those things. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. Good to be back on the air, and I'm here with Aussie fan and professional wrestler David Furick. How are you, David?
Great, Mike.
You do something else, don't you? City manager. That's right. We nearly forgot again.
Very similar to the profession of wrestling. Yeah.
Right. Never thought I was just being my usual wise guy self, but now that that's profound. I was unintentionally profound. Yeah, city manager, professional wrestler. I think I got it. Well, you got a little son this year, huh? That's
I
all right,
did.
man.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Yeah.
You got your son home from U of I, the swimmer, or is he staying down?
No, he's home for the summer.
Is
He's home
he?
for the summer. Yeah.
To get a job, or is his job just staying in his room playing?
No,
video
he's
games?
working. He's at work every morning, 7 a.m.
He doesn't work for the city by chance, does he? He does.
Painting fire hydrants.
There you go. Well, there's a name for a job for a college kid. There's no doubt about that. Well, I know you weren't at the council meeting last night, but you're familiar with some of the things that happened. For example, there was an agreement that the city has entered into with Blessing, the Blessing Group out of Missouri, St. Charles, Missouri, which is right north of St. Louis, to tear down the old Sears building. And again, we want to tell everybody that the Sears building and the Crossroads Mall are two different things. And the manager of the Crossroads Mall appeared last night at the council meeting to express concern about how this was going to happen and what the Crossroads Mall was going to look like after the demolition. Legitimate questions, for sure. But we apparently are going to TIF this demolition.
Yes.
And so how is this going to work from the city's point of view? I think we need to discuss that there's always a worry with some, and it's legitimate as well, that we're spending tax money frivolously. But we're doing this in using TIF, and of course we can never explain TIF too much.
No, it's always worth explaining, and it's a reasonable discussion for people to have, and wondering why your city government, a government, is getting involved in what appears to be
private enterprise. Yeah,
it's private enterprise. But what we do, and we've done this regularly, and it's quite common throughout other areas, and really what TIF was generated in the first place, tax increment financing, was to take areas of property that are basically live their useful life, which the Sears has, and allow cities and governments to infuse some cash for redevelopment of that area. So we take the Sears, for example. The land itself is pretty valuable for development. The building on top of it is not. The building on top of it is definitely a liability for the land. I mean, because somebody has to take that whole building down, has to remove concrete, and
is it in bad shape? It's 35 years old.
It's in bad shape, and it's
40 years old. I guess.
And it's not. It is not what contemporary retail wants as far as space.
Oh God, it was built in '64.
Yeah.
I see that now.
So
well, longer than that.
So yeah, it's obsolete. It's lived its life. So what we do, and we've done this on a number of other cases where the Buffalo Wild Wings is a good example, where First State Bank is on the corridor is another good example, where the city comes in and says, okay, developer, or in this case, it's the current property owner. We will assist you in basically taking your property, which is dilapidated and not very marketable, and make it the equivalent of a greenfield site. And the reason we want to do that is that people then can look at these sites that need to be redeveloped as higher priorities than going somewhere on a cornfield, let's say like the other side of Walmart or something like that, where we end up with new stores on our outside, and then the interior of the city starts decaying. So
Right.
we've used TIF in this case so that people can think that a redevelopment project's way more palatable than going and chewing up more corn land and then leaving this thing to decay even more. So in the case here, the Blessings, which are the owners, they're going to pay to have it demolished. They're going to upfront those costs. They're taking all the risks that they are going to be able to not only sell a portion of it and gain some money from selling it, but then they got to take the risk that they generate enough new tax value. So there's always will be a tax base, and that will continue to go to all the taxing districts. And new tax value with new stuff built, they will get reimbursed that amount until they've reached their 600,000. But and again, I don't have that agreement in front of me, so I'm careful not to misspeak here, but I think there's a limit of how many years they can collect that increment. So it's going to take some effort on their part to sell these parcels out for redevelopment for other businesses. But it will look different than the TIF or the current Sears. It won't be like one big store. It'll probably be 2 or 3 stores on that site.
I've heard some retail people say that the day of those great big stores is probably over. That malls are going to have much more specialty shops and things like that.
Yeah,
and probably more stores like Sears hometown store, like we have here in town. Which I can understand that in the air when we have drone or when we have home delivery of groceries, the world is changing.
Well, and it is, and people's shopping behaviors are changing drastically, and the life of malls is changing significantly, and malls like the ones in Fort Dodge or other smaller malls, even in larger markets, just are not as attractive as far as a shopping thing. And big ones like Jordan Creek, which are still destinations / even as much entertainment, something to do, than it is just to actually go buy something.
Absolutely. Malls used to be kind of you met people at malls. It was almost
that's all you did, because you didn't have any internet. You couldn't do all this.
Yeah, we were so deprived.
You couldn't do all this. You actually had to meet somebody face to face.
Oh my God, without a phone or anything.
You didn't have any Tinder either, so how did you find it? So
Yelp, nothing.
So you had to do those face-to-face things, and that's the way people did.
Rough.
And so the big ones, like a big destination like Jordan Creek, which also has a lot of niche shopping where people will say, okay, let's go make a day and do the Jordan Creek. Those will still be okay, even though I just saw on the news yesterday that Dave & Buster's is going into the top half of Yonkers. So that's a brand new dynamic for them. That's another entertainment dynamic inside what was a big box retailer. But so yeah, we're gonna see more of the strip centers where people can have kind of focused, have their mission of what they're gonna do, shop, and then go off and do other stuff, and not spend a day just sort of circulating around the mall. It's just people just don't do that anymore.
Well, I do. I have to go to bigger malls, but you're right. The world has changed. I was over in Dubuque not long ago, and they used to have a 2-story Yonkers store there and a huge Sears. They're gone, of course.
Yeah, well, our Sears and Yonkers is empty too.
Yeah, Sears, Yonker, and JCPenney. That's a rough one. Yeah, the world changed pretty fast, really. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. If you have a question or comment for the city manager, it's 515-955-1400. Not any questions like, why do you suck, or anything like that. Just, if you have a legitimate question, 515-955-1400. If you want to ask somebody why they suck, Matt will be here Thursday. He'll fight with you. He'll fight with you. He likes to fight with you. I talked with the Fort Dodge Police Chief, Roger Porter, early this afternoon. And Roger had some good statistics as far as fireworks. I realize there's a small group of people out there who are never going to be happy that we have fireworks in Fort Dodge. And there's also a small group of people in Fort Dodge who are, let me say this clearly, complete idiots and who abuse the privilege. This year, and I'm happy to say, Roger reported that fireworks complaints were down about, well, almost 2/3 from last year. I don't know. He didn't have the statistics with him from the first year, but the complaints were down quite a bit, which is really, really great.
Yeah, and our tickets at the same point are about half the tickets we issued before.
Half the tickets. Of course, that's a pretty big sting, isn't it? $500, or is it more than that?
It's I think it's something around there, maybe a little bit more, right around that.
$750, I've heard.
Or,
that's a pretty good sting to just
and
for lighting off
fireworks.
fireworks.
And well, I don't want to ask you because I really was gone between that weekend before the 4th through even yesterday, so I didn't really get to experience the 4th of July here. But I'm kind of getting the gist that there just wasn't as many people lighting off the big fireworks. So the complaints I think are more tracking with behavior in that the people that are enjoying them are doing them responsibly and not generating the kind of things that cause complaints.
What prompts people to let off loud noises at 1 o'clock in the morning in my neighborhood? I will never understand. I was just raised in a different era where you just didn't do that, not because there was a law against it, but because it was poor behavior.
It just wasn't a decent thing.
It just wasn't a decent thing to do. Why would you want to wake up your neighbor, Roger over there, or Bob, or whoever, Diane? They never did anything wrong to you, so you're going to go out there and blow up some fireworks in the alley behind their house. No, that's just not what I'm going to do. But it was a good 4th of July here in town. Went out to Fort Frenzy, of course. The weather wasn't terribly extreme. It wasn't terribly hot, so it was good. It was a good 4th of July here in Fort Dodge, and we looked it up today. Steve Peterson and I. The 4th of July is on Saturday next year. Somehow we skipped.
Is it leap year?
God, I didn't think it was.
So 4th of July is on a Saturday
next year. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, David Furick is here, city manager at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Yeah, apparently the Blessing Building is near a big sinkhole. Did you know this? Yeah, there's a big sinkhole in the part of the parking lot owned by Blessing Enterprises, and I don't know how much of the parking lot Blessing Enterprises owns, but she said, the manager of the mall now, it was created 2 years ago when a water line was shut off and the resulting hole was filled with gravel rather than cement. So we've got that going on.
There might be a private water line. That's why I don't know about it. Yeah, and the Blessing parking lot basically extends from the Sears building westbound pretty much all the way to the businesses that are along 25th Street. So their parking lot's pretty big over there, and it goes all the way down to basically the Dunkin' Donuts property too.
Okay. AM 1400 KVFD, good afternoon. You're on the air with David Furick.
Did anything ever come out of that outfit? I think it was from Illinois that wanted to buy the Sears building.
No, so they were interested in doing it. That was the Hutton Group, and they wanted to they're going to put a strip center there. They actually ended up in a little bit of a legal challenge with the mall owners on what was required for cross access easements. And so that became in a legal challenge and had to get resolved. And by the time that got resolved, the letters of intent they had from all the retailers expired, and the retailers decided not to go along with the project anymore. So they just folded up and went away. So
this was I believe it was a car builder.
Car builder?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't hear anything like that.
I keep hearing about it at the car shows.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I was at the car show. What'd you think of this one? What'd you think of the July J. Mark cruise?
Wasn't that great?
It wasn't as good as the one in June. The one in June was one of the better cruises I've ever seen.
Yeah, too much going on in July.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know anything about a car builder going there, so I don't know if that was just a inquiry somebody made and they didn't get to the city level or not. That could happen.
I heard at one time somebody said they didn't want them there.
car builder.
Didn't want who there?
They didn't.
Car
They
builder?
didn't want no old used car lot there. Or something.
Oh, that's on the corridor of Commerce. Yeah. Wasn't there
A car lot?
an old used car lot? I don't think that they wanted a lot of
No, these guys build cars.
build cars.
Yeah.
Boy, I haven't heard
You know, like you can buy these Novas and
Yeah.
Camaros and 57 Chevys, probably 5 Chevys and Mustangs and old Chevy pickups, and you can buy enough pieces to build a car.
I'll be darned.
And that's what they were doing. They were building cars.
Never heard that one.
Me neither.
All right. Hey, thanks for calling.
Thanks.
All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. David, thanks for coming.
You're welcome,
All
Mike.
right, man. We'll talk to you next week. David Fierk's been our guest.
Michael Devine at AM 1400
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
with 60 rounds of freedom.
All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 429. 86 degrees. 86 degrees. That's higher than the projected high today. We're going to have the news, the obituaries, and Dr. Dean Stansel from Southern Methodist University. That's all coming up as Divine Intervention continues.
Ever wonder why Europeans seem to speak so many languages? Maybe it's because they use Babbel, the #1 selling language learning app in Europe. Babbel's award-winning technology gets you speaking right away, whether you're learning Spanish, French, or German. And best of all, you'll remember what you've learned.
I always thought I was bad at languages, but after using Babbel, I can tell you I was just taught the wrong way.
Using Babbel's 10 to 15-minute lessons, you can be speaking confidently in your new language within weeks.
I was amazed that I could start having real-life conversations right away. It was so fast. Now I'm speaking Spanish. Woohoo!
No wonder Babbel is the #1 selling language learning app in Europe. Try it for yourself and see why Babbel is the quick way to get conversational in a new language, like Spanish, French, or more. You can try Babbel for free. Go to Babbel.com or download the app and try it for free. That's Babbel, Babbel.com, or download the app to try it for free. That's Babbel.com.
Here's a special message for those of you who owe the IRS at least $10,000 or more in back taxes. The IRS has special programs in place that could eliminate or reduce your tax debt by thousands of dollars. With a call to National Tax Helpline, you can stop the wage garnishments, levies, and tax liens now. Once you've qualified and enrolled, the IRS will stop all the collection activities against you. These unique programs have been allocated to help the economy and significantly reduce or eliminate your tax burden. The IRS is currently accepting reduced settlements and other favorable programs. You may qualify for substantial savings, so get the help you need. If you owe the IRS $10,000 or more, call now for free information and to see if you qualify. Take down the number now for the Tax Helpline, 800-805-1055. That's 800-805-1055 for free information. 800-805-1055. That's 800-805-1055.
Hey guys, Ken here from Income Store. Did you know of the top 10 reasons an employee stays at a company for more than 2 years? The 7th reason is the pay or the salary. The first 6 reasons have nothing to do with money. Things like they feel part of a team, they know they belong, their voice is heard, they're respected. Also, employees go through 5 phases within a couple days to 6 months of any new position. Excitement, education, reality, doubt, then clarity. Did you know it's a manager's job to walk them to clarity as fast as possible? If you need to know these fundamental principles, did I just say that? I'm going to leave that in. If you need to know these fundamental principles, I can't say this. This is awesome. This is like a blooper roll. Hey, you know what? If you need tips and techniques like this to grow your business today, you got to check out door number 1 of Income Store. If you just need somebody to literally hold your hand and get you to the finish line, check out door number 2 of IncomeStore.com. That's IncomeStore.com.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. The second person accused of killing a Webster County woman will now spend the next 4 decades in prison. 28-year-old Mackenzie Carnegie was originally charged with murder in the 2017 death of Jessica Gomez. Carnegie reached a plea agreement with prosecutors, which included her pleading guilty to 3 felonies, attempting to commit murder, second-degree robbery, and desecration of a corpse. Carnegie and Indiana resident Philip Williams were charged with murdering Gomez after she was found dead in August 2017. Gomez had been reported missing a few days earlier. Carnegie will serve a mandatory 24 and a half years in prison before eligibility for parole. Williams pleaded guilty in April on 3 charges in conjunction with the case, including attempt to commit murder, abuse of a human corpse, and accessory after the fact. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison for his involvement. From Radio Iowa, former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper says if he convinces people he can win Iowa, he'll win the presidency. The former Colorado governor says his first abandoned foray into property development taught him not to give up on a great idea like his current campaign for the White House.
I'm going to keep pushing as long as I feel people are hearing something in me that for them is a solution to this crisis of division, all this animosity that this country is filled with right now.
Many of Hickenlooper's national staff and advisors left the campaign after urging the 67-year-old to run for Colorado's U.S. Senate instead. Hickenlooper says throughout his career, he's faced critics who say he's not the right person for the job of being mayor of Denver or governor of Colorado, but he persevered.
How do you win? If you're at 1% in the polls nationally, you win Iowa. That's how you win. You go out and you walk back and forth across Iowa, and you drive cars across Iowa, and you convince people that A, you're the best person for the job, and B, that you can win Iowa. And most people in Iowa, they feel that if you win Iowa, you're going to become the next president.
Hickenlooper says he may not be the smartest candidate in the race, but nobody will work harder.
There's not slick slogans, and it's going to take a while to turn the tide. But I believe I am different than anybody else. And I think that when people get to know that and hear it, I think they'll talk about it to their neighbors.
Hickenlooper spoke to crowds in Des Moines yesterday. He describes himself as a pragmatic progressive and argues he can win in swing states Donald Trump won in 2016. 22-year-old Fort Dodge resident Cameron Heller is facing a multitude of criminal charges. His preliminary hearing is set for July 15th on charges of threat of explosive or incendiary device, child endangerment, reckless use of fire or explosives, and public intoxication. The Fort Dodge City Council met last night with an abundance of items on the agenda for discussion. The most prominent topic discussed was the proposal to rezone the Sears building into the Center City and Industrial Park urban renewal areas. That proposal passed the council unanimously. At-large council member Jeffrey Halter said the idea behind placing the Sears site in the urban renewal area is so that the city can offer tax funding reimbursement to the owners of the Sears site after the owners have covered the initial cost of demolition. The reimbursement would occur after new tax revenue is generated by future usage of the site. The council also confirmed at last night's meeting that July 16th will be known as Dodger Denny Day, in honor of former Fort Dodge School District longtime employee and avid Fort Dodge Dodger fan Dennis Olson, a.k.a. Dodger Denny, who passed away July 16th of last year. In sports, the St. Edmunds Gales softball team with a win in the playoffs 8-3 over Riceville last night. St. Edmunds will advance to take on AGWSR in Ackley on Wednesday. First pitch, 7 p.m. You can hear that game on Sunny 99.7. Fort Dodge softball set to host West Des Moines Valley tonight in a doubleheader to finish off the regular season. The Dodgers are coming off a doubleheader sweep of Mason City last night, 9-0 and 14-4. You can hear both of the games of the Double Dip tonight on Sunny 99.7, beginning at 5 p.m. That's your Alpha Media News and Sports update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 6 3/4 at 431 3/4. September down 7 cents at 432 1/2. December corn down